This week's $6 million judgment against the Albuquerque Police Department is but the latest in a long string of cases stemming from the problems outlined in a DOJ report. Now, as we tape it this week, a draft agreement between the city of Albuquerque and the DOJ laying out a reform path is imminent. But who will be at the table as those changes are hashed out? Chief Gordon Eden has warned union officials to get on board with DOJ reforms and limited how officers interact with DOJ without his permission. Some city council members want to further limit public comment at meetings, and now two new community groups have emerged to push for reform. Joining me to talk about this and stories of the week, we have line regular Tom Garrity of the Garrity Group. Also here this week is line regular Rob Nicoleski of the New Mexico Watchdog, and we welcome back another regular as well, Laura Sanchez-Rivey of the Sanchez Legal Solutions. I love that title. And joining us again this week is Julianne Grimm, editor of the Santa Fe Reporter. Tom, your Garrity perception survey came out this week and showed trust in our citizenry about the police department is dropping. And dropping quickly, and changes to get this back up. Is the DOJ report going to be enough? Where do we stand now for the citizens of Albuquerque?
Well, you know, statewide, we've seen a decline of 18% in trust of police officers over a 4-year period. But more importantly, we've also seen a 6% increase in distrust. So what that means is that, you know, law enforcement entities have a lot to do. They haven't totally lost the trust of residents, but there's a lot to do. And, you know, the DOJ report is one aspect of that.
Right.
Another aspect is just listening. You know, when Chief Eden had a chance to speak to Economic Forum this week, I was there, and you know, he spent about 30 minutes, thereabouts, talking about his qualifications, which was a good setup to talk about the changes he's implementing. I think the changes that he's talking about, as far as the proactive outreach, is strong. What I didn't hear, though, were enough mechanisms for them to receive input from different groups, which is why I think you're still seeing more protests. More folks coming out and just, really wanting to get their voice heard.
Sure. I'm curious, the timetable you were polling, was it during the time protesters were rocking and rolling, or?
No, actually, the survey was the last week in February, first week in March.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, it was still right in the midst of a lot of this.
Yeah, interesting. Laura, good to see you again, by the way. And again, we've got two community groups who are forming, one faith-based, and another has about 10 to a dozen community groups all together now to try and move some things forward. As we've sat at this table the past 3-4 weeks or so, this has been the urge to get moving with more kind of cohesive talk about this. Is this the best way, in your view, as to how this is moving now? Community groups, faith groups, is this who should be at the table?
This is a really important approach, a really important aspect of addressing, I think, the overall community distrust of the police. And I think that these groups are doing what they can to marshal their resources and their community trust and their, what they've done, their reputations, to try to pull together more community involvement into the process. My understanding is that they won't have a seat at the table as far as negotiating the agreement, and that's been made pretty clear. But they will be, I think, an important part of monitoring this as we progress, and it has to be a multi-year approach. So I think the fact that we have so many groups committed to a long-term solution is really important for resolving some of the tensions that we've seen lately.
Is it, in fact, possible that we can get some of these folks at the table for an agreement, however? Something seems disconnected there. I hear your point. But something seems not quite right there. These community groups are supposed to wait for the word, so to speak.
Right. Well, I think, and this is just from press reports of the whole thing, is that there's a reluctance from the DOJ and the city, I don't know which side in particular, in opening it up to other parties, mainly because it is a consent decree. It has to be entered into court.
Right.
So there's some standing to consider in that whole thing. You don't necessarily want to make other parties subject to an agreement in that way. So they're really there, in the public interest. Right. They don't necessarily have a role in the agreement itself. And so from a legal perspective, it's difficult to negotiate with multiple parties. Then you get into the reality of, who do you pick and who gets excluded in that. If you open it up to one, you really have to open it up to everyone. And I think that then makes it a much longer process, and I think the DOJ has seen that in other places. It turns into a multi-year agreement, negotiation, as opposed to just negotiating with the city, getting something in writing, and then perhaps having those community groups, hopefully, I think, participate in the monitoring and in the ongoing, compliance of the whole.
I appreciate you spelling that out. That actually helped out quite a bit. Rob, you were here a couple of weeks ago, same thing, 3 weeks ago rather, when City Council was getting sort of warm, and you had been one of those folks calling for more reasoned talks. Does this strike your gut as though, is this your best angle in? You like the fact that these community groups are in now and there's demands being made and people are being heard?
I think that if you're going to have any kind of agreement, even though a lot of these community groups may not have a place at the table,
Sure.
if you're going to have any kind of movement forward on this issue, you're going to have to get a lot of buy-in from everyone. And so whether or not they get technically a seat at the table or not, doesn't really matter as much as the fact that if they're getting this kind of input and there's a general sense that this is becoming a community issue, not a top-down directive, then I think we're going to be able to move the ball forward on this. Having said that, though, I mean, it seems like this issue takes on a life of its own week after week from a public relations standpoint. And when you had Chief Eden in the past week have to come out and say, well, you can't, no APD officers can talk to the DOJ without my permission, but then had to go back and apologize for that.
Sure.
That's an unforced error.
Very interesting. Another Julianne Grimm, good to see you as well. We have a $6 million suit hanging over all of this suddenly. Changes things a little bit, doesn't it? Colors things just a little bit. And 30 million and counting, by the way, in total. I have to think the administration's going to have to say about this DOJ report, we're going to implement this. It's going to be all the way across the board. There's no screwing around here. And then the union is going to have to get into this as well. We've now had, as I mentioned in the setup, it's been told we're going to have your cooperation here. What's your sense of where the union might be on this and their role in this whole thing?
Well, I think that at some point you're going to see the DOJ and the city of Albuquerque come out with you might call it a draft of the plan. We've seen in other DOJ negotiations where the governing body does get an update. They give a public update. These are the salient issues. These are the things we have agreement on. This is what we're still working on. And hopefully the union gets to be, part of that conversation. I do think, I agree.
Just interrupt me for a second. It seems to me you have to have rank and file buy-in for anything, right? And if what Rob was getting at, if there's been this little hitch between talking to DOJ, and even now you have to report back to the command staff that you've in fact met with DOJ.
And you've got to have someone still a representative with you, even though you're allowed to talk now.
Is that a disincentive for people to talk in your view? I mean, it seems to me, why would I go to DOJ and talk frankly if I have to have a representative from the chief's office with me?
I think it might be, but I think that when you're working with that large of an organization, and, all the different players at the table, that they do want to somewhat limit who's got the major voice. I think they want to keep their ears open, so to speak, and ask for a lot of input and get a lot of information. But at some point, you can't have 45 police officers negotiating with DOJ. That's never going to work out. I do think that the tone, that's been something we've discussed, that I'm seeing a difference as somewhat of a dispassionate observer being up in Santa Fe, that especially since they brought Janet Blair on. She's a media professional. She's, got experience in TV, and she knows what they're going to ask. And she knows when Eden needs to just apologize. And I think that's going to go a long way toward fixing what, those clergy groups called the unproductive tone of discussion so far.
And Tom, circling back to Gordon Eden's appearance this past Tuesday at Economic Forum, the reporting also talked about management and being a manager and being different managements. How did that go over in the room? Were they there to hear about management style or reform?
Overall, I mean, I think the Economic Forum received his address very well. He was very well received. A lot of the leaders, what they liked was some of the just frank conversation. He admitted that, we've been looking for our recruits in all the wrong places. He talked about a partnership that will be announced soon with CNM, a partnership with an organization in Rio Rancho to really proactively go out and look for police officers. And they liked, his transparency and saying, I made a mistake and I humbly ask for your forgiveness.
Sure.
So, those were things, that type of transparency, accountability, leadership, and saying, here's a direction we're moving forward.
Right.
To use it into baseball terms, he's the best relief pitcher we have right now. Problem is that APD is behind by about 8 runs in the 8th inning. So, but I think he can turn it around. I think he's the right guy. You just need to give him some time.
Interesting.
All of us,
Interesting. Coming up, a new report says climate change is threatening America's national landmarks.